We want to welcome to the Enid Television Network studios and to Good Morning Enid, Paul Johnson. Paul is the General Manager of Williams Broadcasting. Good morning, Paul.
Thank you,
welcome.
Steve.
Appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
You're this radio guy, and here you're doing some television.
Yeah.
So
Returning the favor.
I guess so. I guess so. Well, we're glad that you're with us. So thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
And get ready for 20 questions, and Sarah's going to start.
Okay.
Well, welcome to Good Morning Enid.
Thank you, Sarah.
Paul, it's really nice to have you here. I know that it's probably taken a lot of hard work to get here to this show this morning.
Right.
So why don't you share a little bit about your background with broadcasting and how you got here?
Well, I'm a radio brat. My dad was the general manager of a small town radio station in northwestern Ohio, where I grew up. So that kind of got my foot in the door a little bit. Went to college in northeastern Ohio at Kent State. I majored in broadcasting, radio and television. And I thought radio was easier. Television was a little too complicated. So that's why I went into the radio side of it. But then, spent years just as an announcer, first of all, and then a program director in charge of all the music and the programming on radio stations. From there, went into operations, which, would be involved with programming multiple radio stations. And then I got into general management, but really was able to move around to some beautiful parts of the country, upper Minnesota, Colorado, and then for the last 15 years in Virginia before coming here to Enid.
Before I ask you about your role or what a general manager actually does, I know firsthand when you get into broadcasting, you have all these different opportunities to do just a variety of things, to open a new car dealership and things of this nature. But I understand that you used to be the public announcer, address announcer at the Air Force Academy.
I did.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, for a couple of seasons. I mean, I love football, college football, and I understand a lot of people around here like their college football too. Colors of the teams may be a little different, but I do love college football. So I lived in Colorado Springs for about 7 years. And for about 5 of those years, pushed really hard to the Air Force Academy to be their public address announcer at their football stadium. Well, they had a guy who they were perfectly happy with and was doing a terrific job, but he ended up moving. So I auditioned in an empty stadium with about 3 people sitting on the other side of the stadium listening and taking notes to me and about 5 other people who were auditioning. And was lucky enough to get the job. So, and in fact, the second season that I did it, the first team they played was Oklahoma, fresh off their national championship year with Bob Stoops. It wasn't a good outcome for the Academy, but it was sure exciting to be able to announce the defending national champions.
Very good. Well, talk about excitement. Tell us about your daily role as general manager at Williams Broadcasting.
Well, I mean, as general manager, you oversee the whole operation, and radio really has 3 distinct. There's programming. There's Alan Klepper, who's on the air. There's the music. There's the, the news, the weather, all of the information that a good radio station gets out about the community. So that's the programming side of it. Then you have the technical side of it, because it is complicated. The transmitters, the broadcast equipment, processing, microphones, all of that. And then there's the business side, which includes sales. And that's the most important thing. A radio station, the only way a radio station earns money is by selling advertisement. I've had people over the years say, oh, your stations play a lot of commercials. Well, that's how we keep our doors open. So, solving the advertising needs of clients is kind of our mantra, and we can help them do that, but it also keeps our doors open as well. So the general manager oversees all 3 of those aspects of the radio station, and the great thing about here at Williams Broadcasting is I get to be more hands-on. When I was in Richmond, I had a full-time staff of about 35 people. And here I have a full-time staff of about 8 people, which requires the general manager to roll up their sleeves and be involved, be in the, many of the day-to-day tasks. I've done all of that during the course of my career, and it's refreshing to get back into that, where I can have a more active role rather than to just, be in the big office and tell people what to do. I like to be more active.
Very good.
I think it's important how you mentioned about advertising through, commercials on the radio. Just it shows the importance of, the radio as using it as communication. So can you tell us a little bit of how radio is relevant in today's communication industry?
Well, I mean, it's up to each individual radio station. You know, radio has gone through a lot of challenges over the years. You know, radio, when TV first came up, everybody thought, well, who's going to listen to the radio anymore when you can watch? And so radio had to reinvent itself at that point. And then in the 60s, 70s, when you could install a cassette player or an 8-track player in a car, people thought, well, if I can bring my own music into the car, who's going to listen to the radio? And so radio had to reinvent itself again. And now, you know, with the ability to get information, the ability to get music on your telephone, you know? I mean, you don't need a radio station to do that. So every individual radio station has to determine what they're going to do to remain important. And the situation that I walked in here in Enid with Williams Broadcasting is astounding, because with the community involvement, the heritage in the community, these radio stations are still very important to its town, and they've earned that. I mean, you don't get that by just sitting around and turning on your transmitter every day. You have to earn it. And the way these people are involved in the community, the way they have helped advertisers before, it has made radio still important. So again, it doesn't, just because you have a radio station doesn't mean you're going to be important to your town. You have to earn it, and you have to work for it. And the people here at Williams Broadcasting have done a fabulous job at that.
Good morning, Enid. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday, March 1st. Again, Holden State around 34 degrees, and again, working our way up to a pleasant 58 degrees. Our very special guest this morning is Paul Johnson. Paul's sharing what his life is all about at Williams Broadcasting. Paul, if you talked about the commercial aspect of selling spots or selling advertising for income to really keep the station afloat. But if a nonprofit has an event coming up, Make-A-Wish Foundation, I mean, the list goes on.
Sure.
There is a role in radio and even television to help that nonprofit get their message out. So if somebody is watching this morning and they're part of a nonprofit organization, they go, you know, we've got a fundraiser event coming up, we need to reach out to Paul. How would they do that, and how can you help a nonprofit?
Well, I mean, we can, and it's part of our responsibility. The FCC, Federal Communication, every time a radio station renews its license, they have to prove to the FCC that they broadcast in the public interest. Meaning, you know, are you doing things to further the public good of the community that you serve? So not only do we want to do that, we're required to do that. So as far as how somebody would get involved, I mean, they could certainly contact me. My email address is pretty simple. It's p.johnson@kofm.com. Or any of the individuals at the radio station. Certainly Alan Klepper is somebody that has been involved in nonprofit organizations and civic organizations long before, you know, I've been to Enid. And again, he's part of the fabric of the city. You know, it's one of those things where we can't do everything. We can't do everything for everybody, but we're going to try. We're going to do our best. We just went through the last month of having probably 20 plus either 4-H or FFA organizations from all across Northwest Oklahoma come in and visit and spend quality time with Alan to talk about, you know, each of these individual kids. And it's so important to them and so important to the parents. We're involved in a lot of great activities. You know, full hands-on involved, like you had mentioned, Make-A-Wish. We do a great Make-A-Wish fundraiser in September every year. And that's, you know, the radio station puts that event on. And then from smaller things where we just help others who do the hard work promote their events. But always willing and always, you know, willing to consider and to do what we can to help any of those organizations.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Paul. I know that if there's somebody out there right now watching us that would one day inspire to be in broadcasting, do you have any tips or any educational advice that you can give this person to one day reach that dream?
Well, I mean, there are different aspects of broadcasting. You know, there's in front of the camera, there's behind the camera. The behind the camera stuff is technical, and I've always been amazed at the engineering staff of a radio station or a television station. The wizardry of electronics is fascinating to me. Now, I'm not very good at it, but it does fascinate me. So, if, you know, there are those opportunities that are obviously there. As far as in front of the camera, I mean, I realized that I might be good at this when it dawned on me that in speech class in college, I was pretty good at it and I actually enjoyed it. Other students were deathly afraid of standing up there in front of the classroom giving a speech. I mean, they would not sleep for 2 nights beforehand, and I realized I was fairly comfortable at that. So it's understanding that if you have that skill, or if you have that kind of personality trait where you don't mind talking in front of people, that's a great start. And then you can be trained along the way. And most colleges, even a lot of community colleges, will have broadcast programs. Larger colleges will have them as well, both radio and television. And now you get into the whole internet and digital products. Content, great, cool, relevant content is being produced in a lot of different areas and ways, things that I didn't dream of 30 years ago when I first got in the radio business. That's opening up a lot of doors. So there's a lot of great opportunities there for people who do have that creative bug that they want to fulfill.
We certainly appreciate, the City of Enid appreciates the relationship with Williams Broadcasting for the past 4+ years. Every Wednesday, I've had the opportunity to go to their studio, and we discuss for about an hour on both KOFM and also KGWA, the AM station, AM side of things, city government news. And so we have about an hour that we just kind of do bits and pieces and update the community on city government news. And so we appreciate that relationship with Williams Broadcasting.
So do we, Steve.